was like, I don't know how this works, I don't know how Twitter IP works, but I want this, I really want this. And they, 72 hours later, wrote me back and said there was an article in Rolling Stone, and that was kind of the way to sort of arrive at the story, was getting this article, getting their life rights. And I was like, put me in, and at that point there were already a handful of people at the table, and they were offering money, and I was offering me, which is not money, and then it went away, and 2 years later, it came back to me. There had been another director, there were another set of writers, and that director was stepping down, and I was like, I want to go after it again, and my feeling was it didn't matter that I wasn't the first choice, it just was the last choice. And I think the thing that had really sort of turned me on about it or excited me about it was that when I read it, I felt there was so much pain in the voice of the woman who was writing this story, and I saw some of myself in it, and I wanted to validate her and her experience and her story and tell her that it was worthwhile.
Well, you're so brilliant, Janicza, and I just, I love you as a filmmaker. I think you're an art diploma in so many ways. Like when that movie opens, it's just bananas. And I know that you're so specific and so exacting, and also you're just so funny, the way you see the world. Can you tell me a little bit about how you and Jeremy came together, and also you and Ari, and sort of the vision for the movie? I guess probably had to get written first, so maybe let's start there.
I'm gonna throw it to Jeremy and then Ari so they can answer that.
Janicza, I was the biggest fan of Janicza ever, maybe. I'm just gonna take that credit. No one was a bigger fan of Janicza than me, not her parents, not her husband or her lovers. It was just me. I used to be a film critic, and I was on the short film, critic, vibes, because I was like, I want to write about movies that no one's looking at. And I wrote about short films, and I ran across Janicza's films, and I thought they were the greatest short films I'd ever seen. And then we ran into each other at a party, and at this party, there were a lot of white people saying the N-word in a song by Kendrick Lamar downstairs, and I was like, ugh, I need to get out of here. And then I ran upstairs and heard black laughter, and I was like, oh, who are you? Oh, wait, what's your name? Janicza Bravo? I thought that's how you said it. You're the woman I'm obsessed with. And then she was like, cool.
And you thought I was a white guy, so you were confused.
I thought you were a white person. Very, very rich. That was my mistake. And then she was like, yeah, no, I'm black. And I was like, cool, can I be your friend? She's like, no, but you can add me on Facebook. And then I stalked her. And, I came to this movie in a weird way because I was in grad school, and Janicza called me, and because we had grown, she submitted, and we become friends finally, and we went on a walk, and she's like, come, Jeremy, I want to tell you about something that's going on. And actually, the story that Darren told at the intro about the whale, she was like, I just got this conversation just started about me doing the whale. And I'm wondering if I should do that because I'm also up for this movie called Zola. I was like, wait, you got an info to do Zola? What the fuck? She's like, yeah, but they're not really giving it to me. And the other thing feels like I might have a clearer path to doing it because it feels like Darren likes me doing it. And I was like, well, honestly, here's the thing, girl. Zola's gonna be amazing, but if they don't want you, fuck them. What you need to do is just do the whale because that won a Pulitzer Prize. That's the vibe. And she's like, yeah, but I can't. I think that Zola's me, and I need to do this for her. And I was like, oh, good luck. And then a month later, she called me. She's like, so I got it. And I was like, oh my god, cool. Oh fuck, I can't write it now. She knows I didn't want her to do it. And she's like, actually, I do want you to write it with me. And after a lot of conversation, we ended up building this thing out together. And the way we built it out was by thinking about it as seriously as one would think about something that won the Pulitzer. Right? As something that was worthy of being seen in the canon of Homer and, Tennessee Williams and Toni Morrison. And that's how we talked about it from the beginning. And that's how we started seeing our vision of it on the page, which Ari made so beautiful on the screen.
I wish I had such a cool story. I got an email from my agent.
She has representation.
And we met on Skype, I think, which is
Zoom. Yeah,
which is indication of what a different world it was. But I had actually seen, we'd been in the same room together because I had been to Sundance when Lemon was there. And it was, I'd only been to Sundance once, but it was like insanely snowy, like ridiculously, like Uber 20x snowy.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it to one film, which was Lemon, and I loved it. And yeah, you guys did a Q&A, and I was like, I'd love to work with this person, but how would that ever be possible? And then here we are. Yeah.
What did you guys shoot on?
Where did we shoot?
What did you shoot on?
Oh, we shot on 16 mil, which is also seems like a miracle. But that was something that when we first met was always kind of, you'd already done the hard fight for that. So, I don't know, 16 mil, just as you can see, I know there's, digital is amazing, but 16 mil is like, there's something magical about it that you actually can't replicate as much as maybe some people say you can, but you just can't replicate that. And we knew, I don't know, this film has a lot of skin, and we love what 16 mil does for skin, and insane colors, and insanely bright and dark, and also, I don't know, it's a film about the internet, and probably could have, the other way you could go, which is like extreme digital, but I'm so glad we didn't.
Can I ask a little bit about the process of how much of that, like the opening image is so striking, and the work with mirrors throughout the movie is just gorgeous, and just like the many points of view, and all the things that it makes you think about. How much of that did you and Jeremy write in script, and how much of that was you and Ari storyboarding, or even the credits and the sort of lights going out, right? Can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, so to sort of piggyback on the shooting on film, the reason it felt so important to me, again, was about validating the story, and that something about this story that had started in a digital space, also being shot digitally, made it feel disposable. And so there was something great about saying that it wasn't, right? That she was tangible, the world was tangible, and it deserved to be something you could hold in your hand. And I also felt like, if I never get to do this again, at least I know I got to do it this one time, and I got to do it like this. So that had felt important, because I know that these opportunities aren't always there. Regarding the mirrors at the opening, that was something that was a part of our reshoot, actually. The film, as it had been written and shot, did not open here. It had opened in, you guys all saw it, so I can talk casually as if you know the film. The opening scene was the scene in the car ride where Colman's driving, Nick is in the back with Taylor, and he does the clean your butt. It's the clean your butt scene. That was where the movie started. So it started really, at 11. It was like a super aggressive open, and that's where the Twitter thread started too. And once we had been in our post process, it was actually, I got to the idea because my development executive at A24, Noah Sacco, we'd been kind of going back and forth about what another way was that the film could open if I'd had it, and I had arrived at this idea of being able to have this kind of gesture that was in this mirrored room that was reminding me of the closing of All About Eve, and what that scene says when she's in front of the mirror and looking at all of these reflections of herself, and what is kind of like a digital version of this, right? These two women who, so much of what they look like is a part of how is their currency. And being able to reflect on themselves and reflect on each other, and using the mirrors to kind of tell that story, and then go back to it too, right? So you use it in the beginning, and there's something more harmonized about where they are, and when we come back later, there isn't that choreography, right? They're no longer as synchronized as they were when we first met them.
So Colman, I'm in love with you, I'm obsessed with you. And
This is great, thank you.
And I mean, this line of that you guys wrote of, like, I wouldn't know his name for 48 hours. By the way, I have a couple of other lines here I wrote down last night. Fuck him, calm. Obviously, clean your butt, Nicholas. And then this prayer circle for big
That's
dicks and
improv.
good credit.
That's
Is it?
improvised by Nick. Yeah, clean your butt is not scripted.
Clean your butt is improvised?
Yeah, you improvise that.
Speak to that. It's a big turn in the movie, that sequence.
Gotta keep a clean butt.
That's why they always say that.
It's so important. Was there a question? Oh,
I was gonna ask, I mean, I guess ask about, I mean, just I think that the turns in the movie are so beautifully delineated, and that's obviously a huge one, like, they're just seeing Taylor's face in that moment, and then, you know, that's the world that's surrounding her. I think it's incredible, but I was gonna ask about, you, Colman, about the turn that your character makes is one of the great turns, I think, in movies, and I was just curious about all the details, like, you know, the green eye, the girlfriend. I mean, these are some legendary moves, so I was just curious about your journey in the movie.
You know, it all started with these two, with what they laid out, with what Jeremy and Janicza laid out for me, with the script, and also going to the source material of the Twitter feed. And the beautiful thing with our collaboration is I think that, I don't know if we had a conversation about this or not, but I just felt like at some point it wasn't important to find out everything about who this guy was truly based on, that we had to make him an amalgamation of sort of this guy, this threat, this system that these women are in. And we made creative choices based on just lots of conversations of like, who is this guy? How does he sound? Yeah, a lot of it was scripted, you know, in terms of like this turn, and then we sort of crafted when it actually happens and why it happens. The one thing that I love, my brother said to me, he said, you know what fucked me up about the movie? I started to think, is he Nigerian or is he American? Which one is he cooking? And I was like, ooh, that's good. Because we made our decisions, and like, even like the hazel eye, I remember I came to Janicza and I was like, Janicza, I knew this Nigerian dude who was a trainer in New York years ago. He used to fuck me up with these hazel eyes. And I was like, what the fuck's with these hazel eyes? Because I felt like he was sort of becoming, you know, his westernization of himself in some way. And I was like, what if he had these hazel eyes? And Janicza was like, what about one? It was brilliant because I'm like, yeah, because it's constantly throwing. I feel like personally, even when I watch it, you don't know it for a while. You're like, wait, what the, something wrong with this fucking eye? So it constantly throws you off, like it's throwing these women off, to make sure every decision that was made was like sort of, especially for X, was, I personally, first of all, I want to give it up to Taylor Page and Riley Keough and their extraordinary work. But I know that the men in it as well, we sort of like had to play these things and like how these women get trapped in this. You know, these are smart women. These are women who are really, you know, in their bodies and really, you know, accessing that and really, you know, figuring it out. And then there's these manipulators, you know, in some way, shape, or form. I'm definitely one of them. So I know that was, every decision was made was about how do I manipulate, and you never know who he is. And also he's seductive. We wanted to make him charming as well. I know that was a conscious thing. It's like, no, you should see, how can you could probably say, you know, how can I get caught up in this? You know what I mean? So it's not like, oh, these other people get caught up in that because they're, you know, they have daddy issues or whatever. No, how can you get caught up in this? He's charming, he's offering you things that you need, you know, so it's setting it up that way to make sure that these women they're smart and but they're being manipulated by someone who is really rewriting the book over and over again.
And one of the things about Jay,
I think the same goes for Derek too, actually.
Yeah.
In terms of being totally lured and seduced by the world.
Yeah, like your turn, and having spent some time and some shady circles in my personal history, I mean, because you do a beautiful job of like that guy, right? Who really is like in
It
the
was just
life.
7th grade me.
He's great, like he's just so in that
Big time
life.
player. Sagging pants and cheetah cap. Backwards, yeah.
But like, you know, just the idea that you so badly, you're like, you know, no, just like don't be a hoe, and then it's so intense that you actually jump. I mean, it's like, you know, that guy that hangs out At least I used to. And, you know, I mean, Colman, you're like letting him hang. I mean, the whole, how did you, I mean, it's a great, great part.
Yeah, I think he's threatened suicide so many times, but he's like, today I have to do it. I have to prove to her it's real. Yeah, I think Derek, I felt for Derek. I mean, I remember talking to Janicza about it, and I was considering not doing it because it was hard territory for me, just because he wants this so bad. He wants love. He's chasing it. He's not sure how to get it. He's totally addicted to this woman. If he kisses her the right way, maybe she'll like him more. Or, you know, if she likes the way he says cookie, like maybe they'll get a little bit closer. And she keeps slipping away. So I find that really sad. But I don't think he's much of a manipulator like your character. I think he gets fully manipulated. He's wrapped up and he doesn't know how to get out of it. So I just wanted to make him feel like he's blowing in the wind, you know. He doesn't eat. That was a big thing. Like, we never need to see him eat, or if he does, he's eating candy. Treats himself really badly. So anyway, there's lots to talk about, but I think I just wanted it to feel, quite damaged, but really trying not to be. Like, optimistic forever that this is going to work out.
It's so great. I mean, what you and Jeremy did, the way you constructed it, that all, you know, it just, everything comes together like a puzzle. Jeremy, were you about to say something just before?
I was actually going to compliment Janicza, which she gets embarrassed about, so I think she was like, shut up. But like, you know, I consider myself quite a rigorous person. Like, I'm someone who like showed up to like my first interview with this with like 18 like theoretical articles about like, you know, with black women in placemaking in digital spaces. And I was like, here you go, like, I go to an Ivy League school, like, get into it. And then Janicza was like, yeah, but here's what I have. And it was like this insane Dropbox of like every light choice in the movie, every costume choice in the movie, every gesture in the movie, like ideas for like what Derek is like basically every idea about who Derek was as a person based on his Reddit and his Facebook and his Twitter, every idea of who X was based on every article it was. And it was like, it was this thing that taught me that like before you get a job, you have to know the world, right? Like that's how you get it, and that's what she brought there. And so it made a script that I think for other people who took less care of this woman and the world that she wrote about, it would have taken them 3 weeks to write. It took us like 8 months to write the script because she kept going back and be like, that's not right. And it was like the best tennis partner to ever play with. It felt like I was like, you know, some newbie learning from Serena Williams. And I don't know, like I feel like that's why there can be such complexity to X, and that's why there can be such complexity to Derek and Stephanie and Zola and every other little minor character that you have all these questions about, because she like allowed the space for that nuance and complexity on the page through her like overly researched approach to filmmaking.
Yeah. She sent a thing when I first got the movie, or maybe it was right before. There was this link to a Dropbox. She sent me some pictures.
Guys, like I love directing. I know what's happening.
No, but it was pictures. There were like thousands of images that helped kind of conjure up for her, but for us too, to just know, you know, what we're getting into, style-wise. It was like, you know, people kissing and like blood kind of coming out of their mouths.
Can you speak about that a little bit?
Lots of like boobs.
Janicza. Hi, dear. Will you speak a little bit about
It was hot.
the
The whole thing
world?
was hot.
I mean, it's true. Like every, you know, like the production design, the hair and makeup. I mean, it's meticulous. The pink sky at the end is so gorgeous. The sound design of Obsession, the font of the way, you know, Zola. So will you speak a little bit about your process and how on earth you do those things? How you see it?
You know, they've all said it, which is I felt in the audition process of trying to get the job, which was a few months, what was really kind of juicy about that period was getting all this time to build the world, right? Of course, if I hadn't gotten the job, I would have been sad. But I got to do all this homework, really, all this dramaturgical research, and that research was divided into costume and set and lighting and some sound stuff and even kind of blocking that I responded to in photography. But then, actually, our production designer is here. She's over there, Katie Byron. And both Katie and Ari and I we did this 3-way group chat that existed both on Instagram and in normal phone space, in which we would just send each other images. And I remember Katie saying at one point, maybe a couple weeks before we wrapped, and she was like, I'm sad that this is going to come to an end. And I said, I promise I'll just randomly send you images years from now. But it's like, wouldn't that be a great strip club? Just out of context. Today, I'm going to do one today. And so yes, there was all the work that I had done, but also, you know, both Katie, both Ari, our costume designer, they had also brought a good deal of work too, which just allowed me to amass more, right? Like the library kept growing, or the catalog kept growing, because I was inviting all of these people into my world, and I wanted them to, it wasn't my world, then it was our world, right? And also we were wanting to create basically enough vocabulary for our actors so that they could feel a kind of independence while there was also some obstruction, right? Like independence, but rules as well. You probably asked other things, but
no, I mean,
it's
I'm personally such a big fan that I'm just. Will you guys? I just to say, I could talk to you about that in specifics for hours, but what about the? Did you guys have for Nick and Colman, and it's true, Riley and Taylor, just so incredible in this movie? Did you guys do improv and stuff? I think I heard you mention this clean your butt. Was there? Did you guys rehearse? What was that process?
We really didn't, but I think that there was just the way Janicza laid out the room for us. There was always room for you to. I think we everything was scripted, but there was moments of like something divine that was happening, that she allowed that space to say, go there, yes, what is that? And she said yes, and where's that going? And find room for that. So you always felt a sense of ownership of your role in the story, and especially us as a foursome, we really felt like we were able to play off of each other in such an extraordinary way, and that there were no limits. You know, I think with things like, I don't even know, like, it's one of those things when it's done really well, you don't even know where the idea came from. You just know the room was set up for it to happen. Like, I remember I took off the belt. I don't know why I took off the belt.
No way. When I was like, yes.
And it was like,
You should do
and
that.
then it was another thing that you have to respond to. Like, I remember Nick was like, so how do I respond to? How do I do this?
You don't want that.
Because it is this wonderful dance where it's like, oh, we're doing this thing because the actions are asking us to do these things, and this makes sense. And so let's say yes to it. So there was a lot of yes, but it was like so laid out by these guys already that the actors felt just empowered to say, oh great, it's mine too. And I can make choices. You didn't feel limited. I felt like, to be very honest, I've said this before, I felt freer than I've ever felt on any set. And I feel like I see my work, and I'm personally proud of my work, because I'm like, that's the freest I've ever been on film.
Can you speak a little, Janicza or Jeremy, about the world that's seen through the windows of a car? You know, like a Confederate flag goes by, there's an arrest on the side of the road. Is that meant to be Zola's point of view of like the world that she's seeing out there? Is there I'm assuming that there's very delineated purpose and choice to everything that's in the movie. And were there other sequences like that did or did not make it in?
That's Florida. We spent. Love her, she's great. But I'm trying to remember that this sequence with the Confederate flag is Florida, right? Like, I was just driving and was like, oh my God, that's crazy. And then I looked it up and I was like, second largest Confederate flag in America. Ding, we need it. The first is in Virginia, in case you want to see it.
Very
And
close
that
to where I
just
live.
felt like, yeah, that felt like, oh, we should have that because like Colman had said and Nick had sort of said, like there was, for me, this was the freest I'd ever had of an experience as well. You know, I can be incredibly rigorous, I can be a little bit of a fascist, but fun. And I found that I felt so safe with them and their ease with the language that I found myself also trying to kind of, you know, let my shoulders down a little bit and be a bit more open to just what was right in front of me. And if I walked in with a certain idea, being open to a better idea. I actually remember, this is a slight segue, but we were scouting the liquor store that we shot in, and I'd already seen the space, and it was Ari's first time seeing it and Katie's first time seeing it, and I was like, you know, this is the way I want this shot to look. Then Ari was walking away, and I was like, I'm trying to talk to you about the shot. And then she was like walking upstairs, and I was like, what's up there? And she was like, oh, this moment, and I remember thinking that when I was younger, the idea, I felt I was supposed to have all the ideas, and I thought that not only did I have to have all the ideas, that if they weren't my ideas, then it meant that I wasn't doing the job. And as I've gotten older and more comfortable with myself, I realized that a part of it is actually really allowing the people you've invited in to actually be in. And that if there is a better idea, by the way, I get to take credit for it. I get to be like, yeah, that was my idea at the liquor store, actually. No. But it's knowing, and whenever I see that moment in the liquor store, which is this really great kind of aerial shot, I'm like, I love that Ari had that idea and that it was better. It was better than what I had imagined for how this would look. And I'm grateful that I felt comfortable accepting that there was a better idea in the moment. The drive-by, I promise I'm going to stop talking soon, guys. The drive-by where the black man is being assaulted by the cops. So we shot this in 2018. The story was written in 2015. I had a cousin of mine was asphyxiated by the cops in a case of mistaken identity. And it had felt important to me to have this conversation with this period in America, where, by the way, it's a period that has been happening, but specifically like around 2015, 2016, there have been all of these instances of unarmed black people being murdered. And I felt like whether or not that was happening in the moment that Zola was experiencing that weekend, it was right next to it, right? And that that story, Zola's story, is an amalgamation of the things that we comfortably move past. We've been here for years, right? Like, it's time, right?
Wait, I also just, and I want Ari to say something because she was about to say something, but I just want to point to something that you're talking about that like goes to Natasha's question, which is like in the screenplay, there were literally like 85 different versions of the screenplay because Janicza is, again, a fascist. In a great way,
but
a
fun.
fun fascist. Like fascism, but make it fun. It's like Tom Brown, you know? So we're wearing it. Yeah, but the thing was, like, we had a very rigorous approach to the screenplay, and there were like 85 different versions, and I feel like on screen, even the things that weren't in the version that went to shot, there were things that were on screen that were represented. There were things that were in other screenplays. So like, you know, at one point we were trying to figure out how to make like, you know, the third panel of the Aronofsky watch, Garden of Earthly Delights or Garden of Good and Evil like exist in the movie. And like one way when we got to Florida was like, oh, maybe there's an iguana that's like a white iguana that like walks across and like an albino iguana, and everyone was like, that's stupid. So like, that's not like then like we're like, oh yeah, they actually have a Confederate flag. And at one point in the script, we had every tweet that happened that day. There was like a major tweet that we forgot. Like we all remember the Zola story. Like everyone who read it remembers the Zola story. But we don't remember that like that's the same day that like Mike Tyson said, I hope that Donald Trump becomes president. And also there were like 2 major shootings that happened that people were like hashtag like this school and like this person, like remember them. And whenever I see that scene, even though I know the biographical relationship that Janicza has to it, I also think about the fact that when we were reading Zola's story, we also were scrolling past another hashtag of another dead black man, and then just kept going and reading her story. And then like the thing we remembered wasn't the black person that died that day, but actually the black woman that lived and like lived to tell her story. And that's one of the most like amazing pieces of like a historical texture inside of the film for me that I think grasps on not only Janicza's actual lived history, but also the history that we all experience in the world, which is like why she's an auteur. But also, you're going to say something about
No.
Oh.
Oh, no?
No, no, no.
Okay.
Well, maybe with the last few minutes here, maybe, do you guys want to talk about the music at all, you know, and how did that all come together? Did you guys put those in the script, or was it in post?
Some of the sound design is scripted, which is, so the Twitter whistle that happens throughout is, there was an idea early on, and this was a part of pitching to get the job, which was, wouldn't it be amazing to kind of homage the original source material and to use this whistle to homage it, right? So that anytime we pulled a line that was directly her writing, we would hear this whistle and it would remind us that, you know, we were sort of paying respects to the IP. And I actually read the script a few days ago, which is why I know Nick improvised Clean Your Butt. I was like, oh, okay, Clean Your Butt. And I was like, the amount of times it says Twitter whistle is crazy, because there was just that much of it, right? And really wanting to make sure that, I just wanted to remind people that when we actually went to, right before Sundance, and I think even around the time when I was making the movie and I would randomly say, oh, I'm working on this movie and it's based on a Twitter thread, there would be this energy that I was met with that was like, that seems worthless, you know, or that seems not important. And I, like I said at the opening of this, it was just so important to validate her experience, right? Like, I didn't want this woman to walk away from having lived this and feeling totally invisible because she was so visible to me. I want to be visible too, and that was really what I wanted. And so to be able to kind of pay respect to this beautiful, magical thing she did was to kind of have this whistle throughout. And then there are all these other digital sounds that we've just become so accustomed to, right? Our phone rings, or the click of the phone when you just look at the time, and I basically wanted to kind of embed what has become so natural to us. We're not even aware of these cues anymore. So that's regarding the sound design. And then the music, the composer is Mika Levy, who had done the first film of theirs that I had seen was Under the Skin, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend. It stayed with me, and I still think about aspects of that film, and the sort of loudest note for me was their composition. And then they had done Jackie, and we started working on this. They were the first person to see the first cut of it, which was totally terrifying because it wasn't in fighting shape yet. But they saw it, and I had this kind of like version of what I thought things could sound like based on other music that we put Joy, who is the editor of the film, Joy and I kind of had this temp track that we had put in to sort of imply what we felt, and gave them the music. And then the big thing for me was finding an instrument that felt like Zola, right? What's an instrument that feels, she is, as you know, having seen the movie, in some ways she's sort of in a silent film, right? She's processing so much. So being able to use the score to kind of be inside of her gut and have the score be a mirror to, that becomes the words for us, right? Like what we hear then is like, oh, that's where she's at. And having those things kind of overlap. And so finding the instrumentation that felt like Zola's score that weaves in and out of the film.
I'm so glad you brought up Joy, because she's such an extraordinary editor.
She's all right.
And, I'm so thankful to get to do this with you guys, and Janicza, I'm so grateful that you're making movies and get to exist in your time. And congratulations to you guys on making such a beautiful film. Is there anything else you guys want to?
No, that's it. Thank you all so much for being here today.